Strength comes from purpose, not perfection. We often grow up believing that to be strong, we have to be flawless, always in control, never making mistakes, never showing weakness. But that kind of strength is brittle. It looks solid on the outside, but one unexpected blow and it shatters. Real strength, the kind that endures, is different. It's not about having every answer or walking a straight line without faltering. It's about knowing why you get up, why you try, why you keep going when everything in you is telling you to quit. There's a quiet kind of power in a person who knows their purpose. They don't need to shout. They don't need to prove anything. They just move steadily and intentionally in the direction of something meaningful. Their actions aren't driven by the need to be seen as strong. They're driven by the need to make a difference, to serve, to show up. Perfection, on the other hand, is a moving target. No matter how close you get, it's never enough. It keeps shifting just out of reach. If your strength depends on never failing, then one misstep is all it takes to unravel everything. But if your strength is rooted in purpose, failure becomes just another part of the process. It doesn't define you, it refines you. When you have purpose, you can walk into chaos and still feel grounded. You can be surrounded by uncertainty, pressure, doubt, and still take the next step. That doesn't mean you're fearless. It means your fear doesn't control you. It means you have something more important than comfort or approval or even success. Purpose gives you the clarity to move forward even when the path isn't clear. It gives you the resolve to make hard decisions, to face uncomfortable truths, to carry weight that others can't see. There are moments in life when everything feels like it's falling apart. The plans you made, the dreams you held, the identity you built, gone. And in that place where you feel like there's nothing left, perfection offers no help. It just reminds you of what you're not. But purpose whispers, there's still a reason to get up. It's not glamorous. It's not always exciting. Sometimes it's just showing up to a job that wears you down because your kids need to eat. Sometimes it's holding your ground in a conversation that's uncomfortable because truth matters more than being liked. Sometimes it's forgiving someone who hurt you because the weight of hate is too heavy to carry any longer. The world will always celebrate perfection on screens, in titles, in image. But behind the scenes, it's purpose that keeps people going. It's the father who comes home exhausted and still helps with homework. It's the friend who answers the late-night call when you're falling apart. It's the man who starts again after losing everything, not because he wants recognition, but because he knows someone is counting on him. Perfection might win applause, purpose wins peace, and strength that comes from purpose doesn't break when things go wrong. It bends, adapts, and keeps moving. Because it was never about looking strong. It was about being useful, being present, being real. Resilience is built through struggle, not the absence of it. We often admire those who seem unshakable, who appear to handle every situation with calm and confidence. But what we don't always see is the pain they've endured, the setbacks they've faced, the silent battles they've fought just to stand where they are. Resilience isn't something we're born with fully formed. It's forged in moments when things fall apart and we choose to rise anyway. There's a misconception that strong people are the ones who never get knocked down, who never show weakness or doubt. But the truth is, resilience isn't about avoiding pain. It's about learning from it. It's about stepping into discomfort, walking through hardship, and allowing those experiences to shape you rather than define you. Every scar, every failure, every heartbreak becomes part of the foundation that supports the next version of you. Wiser, tougher, and more grounded. People who have never faced struggle don't know what they're made of. It's only in the hard seasons, the ones that test every fiber of who you are, that you begin to uncover your real capacity. You learn what matters, who matters, and what you're willing to fight for. Resilience shows up when there's nothing left to give, but you still find a way to take one more step. It doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be present, to keep going, to not quit when it would be easier to walk away. Struggle teaches us patience. It teaches us humility. It forces us to confront parts of ourselves we might otherwise ignore. When everything is going well, we can mask our insecurities with achievement and distraction, but struggle strips that away. It leaves you face to face with your fears, your limits, your doubts, and that's where the real work begins. That's where resilience starts to form, not in the easy days, but in the days when nothing seems to be working and you choose to keep showing up anyway. We all want to avoid pain, but growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. The gym is a perfect metaphor. Your muscles don't grow when you lift something light. They grow when they're challenged, when they're pushed beyond what's easy, into the territory of discomfort and resistance. The same is true for your mind, your character, your spirit. Struggle is the weight. Resilience is the muscle. And every time you endure, you get stronger. You don't build resilience by waiting for the storm to pass. You build it by learning how to stand in the rain. It's in those moments of uncertainty when you don't have all the answers, when you're tired and overwhelmed and full of doubt, that's when you're becoming the person you're meant to be. Resilience isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to try again tomorrow. Sometimes it's the courage to ask for help, to admit you're not okay and to keep fighting anyway. We live in a culture that rewards quick wins and celebrates overnight success. But resilience is a long game. It's the ability to stay in the race when the pace slows, when the crowd disappears, and the finish line feels miles away. It's built day by day, choice by choice, not through avoiding hardship, but by facing it head-on, learning through it, and refusing to let it break you. Every setback, every disappointment, every failure becomes part of your training. You don't rise in spite of the struggle. You rise because of it. That failure is part of the journey, not the end of it. It's easy to see failure as a stop sign, a signal that we should turn around, give up, or reconsider everything we believed in. But in reality, failure is more like a checkpoint. It's a pause, a redirection, a lesson hidden in discomfort. Every person who's achieved something meaningful has faced failure, not once but over and over again. It's not the failure that defines them, it's what they did next. There's a deep fear of failure because we've been conditioned to believe that mistakes are final. That if we don't get it right the first time, we're not good enough. But growth doesn't happen in straight lines. Progress is messy. It includes missteps, disappointments, and even total breakdowns. The people we admire most didn't succeed because they avoided failure. They succeeded because they didn't stop there. They treated it like feedback, not a verdict. Failure has a way of stripping away everything that's not real. It humbles you. It forces you to let go of ego, to reevaluate your motives, to ask hard questions about what you truly want. And in that vulnerable place, something important starts to happen. You begin to reconnect with your core. You remember your why. Why. And often that clarity only comes because of the failure, not in spite of it. When things go wrong, it's tempting to assume you've lost your way. But sometimes failure is exactly what you need to get on the right path. Maybe you were chasing someone else's dream. Maybe your foundation wasn't as strong as you thought. Maybe you were moving too fast, missing the important details. Failure slows you down. It makes you pay attention. It brings you back to the fundamentals. There's a kind of wisdom that only failure can teach. When you've been knocked down and had to rebuild, you learn to be more resilient, more patient, more empathetic. You gain a deeper understanding of what matters. You start to value the process over the outcome. You stop chasing perfection and start chasing purpose. The lessons you learn in failure stick with you in a way that success never could. The irony is that the fear of failure often keeps people from starting. They wait until the plan is perfect, until the timing is right, until the risk is gone. But those conditions rarely exist. And while they wait, life moves on. Opportunities pass by. The truth is, you can't avoid failure forever. At some point, if you're doing anything that matters, you will stumble. But stumbling doesn't mean stopping. It means you're learning where your footing needs to improve. Sometimes failure is public. Sometimes it's quiet and internal. Sometimes it feels like a door slamming shut. Other times it feels like drifting without direction. But in every case, there's a choice. You can see it as a dead end or you can see it as data. Information about what didn't work, what needs to change, and how you can adjust. That shift in mindset from fear to curiosity is everything. It's what separates those who stay stuck from those who grow. Success without failure is fragile. It hasn't been tested. It doesn't know what it's made of. But when you've failed and risen again, you carry something different. You carry depth, perspective, confidence not based on everything going right, but on the knowledge that you can handle it when things go wrong. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of how you get there. Real men lead with heart, not ego. There's a difference between commanding respect and demanding it. Ego demands, it shouts, it competes, it seeks to dominate. Heart listens. It connects, it uplifts, it leads from a place of service rather than self-interest. The strongest men are not the loudest in the room, or the ones who need to remind others of their position. They are the ones who create space for others to grow, who use their strength not to control, but to protect and to build. Ego is fragile. It needs constant validation. It's built on a shaky foundation of comparison and insecurity. When things go wrong, ego either hides or lashes out. It deflects blame, avoids accountability, and resents any challenge to its authority. But heart is steady. It doesn't fear being wrong because it values truth more than pride. It doesn't shy away from vulnerability because it knows that openness is not weakness, it's courage. The world often tells men that leadership means dominance, control, or always having the final word. But real leadership, lasting, impactful leadership, comes from empathy, compassion, and humility. It comes from knowing that you don't have to have all the answers, but you do need to be willing to listen. It comes from understanding that every person around you carries their own story, their own pain, their own dreams, and the way you treat them matters. Men who lead with heart don't need to be feared to be followed. They earn trust by showing up consistently, by speaking honestly, and by putting people first. They understand that leadership isn't about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. It's about being present even when it's uncomfortable. It's about standing for something bigger than your own success. There's a quiet strength in a man who can sit with someone else's pain without trying to fix it. In a man who can admit when he's wrong without seeing it as a loss of respect. In a man who can give credit rather than take it. These aren't small things, they're signs of maturity, depth, and true confidence. Because when you lead with heart, you're not trying to impress people. You're trying to impact them. Ego separates. It creates walls, it leads with fear. Fear of being exposed, fear of not being enough, fear of losing control. But heart creates bridges. It invites collaboration. It leads with curiosity and courage. It seeks to understand rather than judge, to serve rather than dominate, to lift others rather than elevate itself. And in doing so, it builds something far more powerful than authority. It builds loyalty, connection, and real influence. There's a certain pressure that comes with being a man in today's world, to be strong but not too soft, to lead but not to show doubt, to protect but never ask for help. But this pressure often leads to isolation. It pushes men to hide behind personas instead of leading with who they really are. Leading with heart means breaking that cycle. It means showing up as your full self, flaws, fears, strengths, and all, and leading from that place of authenticity. People don't follow titles, they follow character. They don't remember what you told them to do. They remember how you made them feel. They remember whether you saw them, heard them, respected them. That's what sticks. That's what leadership really is. And that kind of leadership doesn't come from ego. It comes from heart that purpose is louder than doubt. Doubt will always be part of the journey. It shows up in the early morning hours when no one else is around, in the quiet moments before a big decision, in the aftermath of a setback when everything feels uncertain. It whispers that you're not ready, that you're not good enough, that someone else could do it better. Doubt thrives on hesitation, on comparison, on the stories we tell ourselves when we're afraid of failing. But when you are deeply connected to your purpose, that voice loses its power. It doesn't disappear, but it doesn't control you. Purpose has a way of cutting through the noise. It reminds you of who you are and why you started. It gives you a reason to keep moving forward when your mind is filled with reasons to stop. It gives meaning to the sacrifice, the discipline, the early mornings and late nights. Purpose doesn't promise ease. What it promises is direction. When you know what you're fighting for, even the hardest days feel worth it. Doubt may still speak, but it becomes background noise to something louder, something more important. There's a clarity that comes with purpose, not because every step is laid out, but because you know which way is forward. You might not know exactly how you'll get there, but you know the kind of person you need to become to make it happen. Purpose doesn't eliminate fear. It just gives you something stronger to hold on to. And when the inevitable storms of life hit, when things don't go as planned, it's that purpose that becomes your anchor. Everyone faces doubt. The difference between those who build something lasting and those who give up is not talent or intelligence. It's how they respond to doubt. People who are led by purpose learn to listen without obeying. They hear the voice of fear but choose to act anyway. They remind themselves that doubt is a sign they're doing something that matters. If you never feel doubt, it's likely because you're staying safe, avoiding risk, playing small. But purpose asks more from you. It challenges you to grow, to reach, to stretch beyond what's comfortable. Doubt focuses on the worst-case scenario. Purpose reminds you of the best-case possibility. Doubt asks, what if I fail? Purpose answers, what if I... It turns fear into fuel, hesitation into movement, and obstacles into opportunities to prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you think. Purpose doesn't just live in grand moments of clarity. Often it shows up in quiet consistency, in doing the right thing when no one is. Whether it's a younger sibling looking up to them, a parent growing old, a team depending on their guidance, or a child needing their protection, there's always someone watching, someone learning from the way they handle the hard moments.